This is too intense and too early in the morning. So friends, it is the final stage of the Zwift Unlocked series, and I can't believe we're actually here already. It's the 5th race, the final race, and it has been the most incredible, exciting, nerve-wracking foray into Zwift racing. So let's just recap on last week. It didn't really go well. Essentially, the course was incredibly long, incredibly varied. It just didn't really suit my skill set. Now, even though at the time I didn't actually feel it went very well, your comments on my video made me feel so much better. I'm really happy to hear that no one else liked that course either. Lots of people seem to have gotten dropped on the Brooklyn Bridge, just like I did. And I also got some nice reassuring comments from people about the fact that my power output was just as high as it was in my previous race, which went much better. But I did learn one thing, one very important thing, which I just had no idea about in any of my previous races: category bandings. Now, I thought the categories for racing A, B, C, D, and E were fixed, but they're not. They change every hour, or for at least this Unlocked series. So in stage 3, where I did really well, got a podium and felt like I was an absolute boss, I was in a race for 0 to 160 Zwift racing score. Then last week, when things didn't go quite well, and I even said that that lead pack was so strong, that's because I was in a banding of 0 to 210. So really, the people in that race last week were probably more experienced and more powerful racers. So that kind of made me feel a little bit better, but also a bit bummed that I didn't know about it in the first place. So now on to this week. This week's route is, much to my absolute disappointment, another New York route, which kind of looks exactly the same as last week anyway. It's called the Double Borough, and it's just around 18 kilometers long with about 150 meters of climbing, and there are features in this which were the same as last week. So naturally, when I saw this, my heart sank, because last week didn't feel very nice and it was such a mixed bag of everything. I felt that this was also going to be another disaster. Now, being a full-time working toddler mum, I don't have a lot of opportunity in my week to squeeze these things in, which is why I chose, or not really chose, I had no choice but to do this at 6 o'clock in the morning. And quite evidently, I am not a morning person. So before you ask me, no, I didn't do a warm-up. No, I didn't fuel up. No, I wasn't even really totally awake. Not gonna lie, I was gutted that I was back in the 0 to 210 category, because there was no chance I was going to try and get up any earlier to do the lower category, and an hour later meant I would be Zwifting with a tornado toddler running around me at the same time. It just doesn't work. Now, it's not surprising that at 6 a.m. on a Friday morning, people clearly had much better things to do, like sleep, so the field wasn't very stacked. And just like every other race, the timer ticked down. 3, 2, 1. And we're off. Now, I adopted the same strategy that I've kind of been doing in the previous few races, where I just want to stay with that front pack, but I don't want to be at the front. I want to be in the middle, trying to get as much advantage off drafting as I can. But when the group numbers are so small, it does make that opportunity to draft that much harder. It was quite surprising that you get your first boost just 1 kilometer into the race, and it's either an aero or it's a draft boost. I got a draft boost. Now, a lot of people decided to throw theirs down on the flat section, which totally makes sense, but I was actually feeling surprisingly fresh in my legs, so I decided to hold mine on just for a little bit longer. I decided to use my draft just as we were getting to the first subway, because I tend to lose people on the sharp descent down, and then when it levels out onto the flat bit, I need to work extra hard to keep up. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to use that boost. Now, the hard thing for me in the subway system is that you have the quick descent down into it and then a long flat. I'm not a mega strong rider, so I feel like it takes a lot more for me just to try and keep up with that front pack. Too intense at this time in the morning. Oh jeez. Oh my God. However, as a lighter rider, climbing is to my advantage. And I know that when it gets to those sharp subway exits, although they are very steep and gruesome, I can usually fly up those. So I drop a gear and I just shoot off. Now, some people commented that I was spending too much power just getting out of the subway, but my thought is that if I can just boost myself out the subway, get onto that flat and maybe create a tiny bit of distance, it would make the people behind me work harder, but also just give me a bit of breathing space for when they do inevitably catch me up. And then for the next few kilometers, there's several of us in the front pack just kind of trading turns with each other. But I do find these flat sections really difficult. Then we approach a second subway station and I try to adopt a very similar method. Just try and hold on during that flat and then shoot myself out of the exit. And then we get to Brooklyn Bridge. This is where I got dropped last week. It is not the most horrendous of climbs, but it's just a long, suffering grind. Now, even though I say I don't like climbs, I am accepting that they should be used to my advantage. Now, at Brooklyn Bridge, I didn't want to get dropped again like I did last week, so I decided just to settle in for the burn. And as I was pushing my way up Brooklyn Bridge and just grinding it out, I actually got myself ahead of the front pack and thought, this is amazing. Again, if I can just build some distance in the areas that I'm strongest, then it will all balance out in the end on the descent when they inevitably catch me again, or on the flat section. So I decided to hold and keep pushing ahead as hard as I could. And then at the top of the Brooklyn Bridge, you get your next power up. For me, that was a draft, which came in super handy as we hit the descent. And then at about 12k into the race, we hit the second bridge. This one's a lot more mellow, not as intense as the Brooklyn Bridge. Nonetheless, I decided to use it to my advantage and power on, just trying to keep up with the front group. And then with less than 3k to go, we were coming up to the final subway just before the finish line. And I was thinking, I really need to be smart here. Now, my thinking was that if I could do what I had done before, if I could just hold on to the front group during the flat of the subway and then propel myself out the other end, gain a little bit of distance, then maybe, just maybe, I could hold on for a podium or even a win. And then as we were making our way through the subway, my plan was kind of coming together. I was holding on to that front group, approaching the exit with less than a kilometre to go, and I thought, right, power down. So I absolutely launched myself out of the subway, crest the top of it, and try and hold it as hard as I could, trying to get as close to that finish line in as best position as I absolutely could. And then with 400 meters to go, I was in the lead. I was tasting sweet, sweet glory. I was inching closer to potentially winning my first ever race. But we were on a flat sprint, not my strongest, and that taste of glory started to fade as I just couldn't shake these guys off me. Fuck you. I haven't sprinted like that in my entire life. I crossed the line in 4th place, which is absolutely insane given everything that unfolded during this race. The 6 a.m. start, no warm-up, no fuel, and kind of going into it thinking this was going to be just as terrible as last week. Not gonna lie, I did really hope for a cheeky little podium, but come on, 4th place in the higher banding is absolutely amazing. I am so stoked with myself. So let's talk about the numbers. We love race numbers. I could not believe that my average power output for this race was 2.7 watts per kilo. That's incredible. That's a 0.3 increase on my previous 2 races. And Zwift Racing score, which I am taking with a pinch or a whole bag of salt, did go up by 36 points, which is great. But arguably, the best number out of all of this is that my FTP went up. I am so happy, so stoked. Like, that was not how I thought it was going to unfold whatsoever. I was already in my mind setting myself up to fail mentally because I was like, I'm tired, I'm not fueled, I'm not warmed up, I don't really want to do this, I want to be in bed, this is the worst way to start my day. And this is just wild because it just goes to show how much of a roller coaster racing is. Podium on stage 3 on top of the world, having a disaster of a race last week, to now having such a great way to end off the Zwift Unlocked series. And just to reflect on my little dip into the world of Zwift racing for the Unlocked series, it's been amazing. It's been such a wild ride, going from being so overwhelmed and bamboozled by racing that I just put it off and didn't want to do it, to now feeling like I kind of know like a little bit of what I'm actually doing and what I need to do, and the progress as well as the learning curve. Most of that is down to you guys. The comments, the suggestions, the messages, like just even words of support and encouragement has been, honestly, like I wouldn't be where I am now feeling so good about this if it wasn't for you guys and your input. And now it feels like a little bit of a bittersweet. Like, I feel awesome about the whole racing series that I've done, and I also feel quite sad that the Unlocked series is over, because it was quite fun to have this every week. But now it's opened doors to so many other things like racing and challenges, and knowing that I'm actually maybe more of a climber than I thought I was. I gotta ask you guys, what do you think I should do next? So once again, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. It really means so much to me. I cannot wait to get some more stuff done on Zwift. And on that note, I will just catch you in the next video.